So, along the lines of boycotts, the idea that you're going to turn this thing around, this attorney says the precedent is set nationally that if you sue as a gambler or a fan, you don't have a chance to win. They generally get thrown out because courts have held that the plaintiffs don't have standing to sue. In this particular framework, the promoter is the fighter. All of a sudden, Tyson, it's magically healthy enough to fight, looking like a shell of himself compared to his training videos. So you bought into the farce. That's
it's true.
look, you're fun. You're a sucker.
Yes.
You put your money up on this thing. Now, if you were betting Jake Paul, you're naturally happy, thinking, "Wow, this was the easiest money I ever made." But I mean, the indicator should have been that the guy was being carried out of a plane on a stretcher for some kind of bizarre attack of an ulcer 2 fucking months ago. And instead, we're looking at these training videos and going, "Hey, it looks pretty sharp to me. I wouldn't want to get in there with him."
Yeah, he's punching that bag. I always love when they punch the bag and everyone gets excited. It's like
You may as well have gone to some bar where they have that thing where they measure the might of
where you punch it one time. Ooh.
$5 in there and go, "Whoa, look at that, a 700. This guy's fucking tough. I wouldn't want to meet him."
Look, it's again. You watch. There's nothing wrong with. I'm not mocking people who watch it. I don't care. It was free on Netflix. You have
I
Netflix,
mean, to watch it, it's entertainment. Some form.
I don't judge people for what they watch, but to then bet on it and then be mad that you bet on it.
You motherfuckers, you ripped me off.
What are you doing?
The time.
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Good to be back with you on a Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday. Good morning, everybody. Great to be back in action here as we're in the month of December and in the stretch drive for 2024. Now's the time to actually start your resolutions if you're really going to do something. It would be now. Don't wait till January 1st when you've stuffed yourself on yet another holiday series of parties and whatever else you're going to be doing. Christmas, it gets even worse than Thanksgiving, does it not, Louie, in terms of calorie intake? Around the holidays, because you got everything. You got eggnog, you got all this, you got a lot of drinking. Yep. So if you really were going to try and get on a self-improvement campaign and you're thinking 2025 is going to be my year, then start today. That would be the day to start. Although I already kind of blew it by having a knish for breakfast. So anyway, good to be with you guys. How was your Thanksgiving, Lubie? You went to Orlando to visit the family. You were also involved in ceremonial stuff here.
Yes.
And look, what didn't happen in the world of sports? It was very exciting on college football, professional football front. You had basketball going on, all kinds of activity in the college hoops ranks. The pros are going. You have the Heat and the Boston Celtics tonight. I don't know if it's a meaningful. Is this a cup game? Because that would add some meaning to it.
Oh, God. Yeah, there you go.
I don't think I would watch it unless I knew it was a cup game. Otherwise, I really don't care, right? I mean, it's early in the season. Who gives a fuck?
Exactly.
You have a lot of action. The Panthers were in a tailspin, but they've rebounded now with a couple of impressive victories. So what was that, 2 in a row? What was that, Carolina that was in town getting hammered? Somebody decent. They just beat the shit out of them, like 6-0 and 6-3 consecutive wins during the course of the week. So they kind of reversed what was an ugly trend.
Oh, they beat her. Oh, wow. They beat the Hurricanes twice, 6-3 and 6-1.
Yes.
Oh,
geez. They played them like 2 times in the same day.
Yeah.
They kicked their ass so bad in the first game. They just went ahead and played another one. And then, of course, we have the Turkey Day games to examine here. And yesterday's activity around the National Football League, which was interesting, even without the Dolphins being involved. So where do you want to begin? Mario Cristobal and the Hurricanes? So, Lubie, Florida State, Florida probably wasn't worth talking about, except Billy Napier did make a nice recovery from, I mean, this guy wasn't even on the hot seat. I mean, he literally was being thrown into a bucket of burning and boiling oil.
It was done.
It was over. People were speculating as to who was going to be the next head coach at the University of Florida, but he's rallied and made an impressive surge here at the end of the season. Too little, too late to have this year be of any great distinction, but salvageable in terms of his position, which the AD had already said that he was coming back. And then that kind of triggered a little march back up to some level of respectability. But that game really didn't draw a whole lot of attention as a rivalry game normally would in the state of Florida. Florida State, usually a good one. Nobody cared, and FSU got hammered as expected. University of Miami, though, let's begin there, Lou, because I know you love this topic because you like to troll the Hurricane fans, and you have plenty of material after this last ball game where you're up 21-0 against Syracuse on the road. Allow the Orange to come back We knew the Hurricanes' defense was suspect. You've been screaming about that all year long, saying the defense sucks. They do end up giving up, 42 points in a ball game. What was it, 42? Yeah, 42,
38.
Yeah, pretty ugly. And then beyond that, the decision making, once again, I mean, if you're going to be a coach of players and try and assist players to get better, these are very talented people, and you're at an elite level of coaching where you're coaching guys that are damn fucking good at what they do to begin with, and probably have a reasonably decent concept of fundamentals and how to play the game and have all the things that you need from an inspirational standpoint. I don't know. Do you need to give some guy that's an elite athlete that's going to be a first-round pick in the NFL? Do you need to give him a lot of inspirational type talks? I don't know. You don't really need to do too much except make sure that whoever is in charge of the NIL gets the money to the kid and wires it into his bank account. And that's really all the motivation that most of these players need. But if you're going to be a coach, I mean, you need to know strategies. Is that not your job? How do you, and relying on analytics is the worst excuse. Is there anything more pathetic, Lubie, than a guy who's just made a bonehead coaching decision, one that deservedly is being roundly criticized as you're asking yourself, okay, 4 minutes to go in the game. Your defense hasn't been able to stop Syracuse on their last 6 drives, giving up all kinds of yardage through the air. They're running the ball effectively on you. Little reason to believe that you're going to be able to get a stop. And if you do, I mean, to kick that field goal, that the only thing that did, it put you in a position that if by some miracle you get the ball back, and on top of that, I mean, this was very much like, remember when Matt LaFleur did this in a playoff game with the Green Bay Packers? And that was kind of it. Wasn't that the last straw for Aaron Rodgers? When they took Rodgers off the field and kicked a field goal and then tried an onside kick in the final seconds of a game when Rodgers would have had one crack on like a fourth. Pretty similar situation, except the time was running out in that pro game where LaFleur kicks the field goal. And you're thinking, what kind of a retard? I don't even want to demean. Shouldn't use a word like that. All right, let me.
We're kind of a moron. We're kind of an idiot. Those are acceptable.
No, that's very insensitive there. What kind of asshole would go ahead and make a move like that? And in the case of Cristobal, you're looking at the announcers really kind of poo-pooed that as if it was a good move, Lubie.
Look,
they got the field goal, and now all they'd have to do
is a horrendous move, and we'll dissect it. But I'll say something. When Miami and FSU played a few years ago, it was Norvell's first year was COVID year. Norvell, I think, had COVID, so Norvell didn't coach it, so he didn't get the official loss. They got drubbed by the Canes. The next year was a really tight game, and FSU was down by 7, I think, and there was like 4 or 5 minutes left, and they were in a very similar situation, and they kicked a field goal, and everyone was like, what the fuck is Norvell doing? Like, so you're still down 4, but the difference is they had a defense, and the defense got to stop. They got the ball back, and when they went down again and got a touchdown, they now had a lead, so it looked like a good move. You just said you have to know your team. You have to know what the situations are, and that's why we say constantly Cristobal sucks as a coach. Not even that he's an average coach. He's just a bad coach because he has a talent. This is now the second straight team he's had talent, right? Oregon, he had talent. This team, he has talent. But every game, there's a point. Even the games they win, there's a point in the game where he does something where you're like, you didn't have to do that. Like, you didn't have to do that. Just take the fucking simple call. You paid Ken Ward all his fucking money. The one thing I'll give Ward in all these games that they pulled out of their ass, they usually have a situation like this, and he makes the fucking play. 4th and goal from the 10. Once it went from like 2nd and goal from the 25, 3rd and goal to the 15, and they had 4th and goal from the 10. I'm like, okay, I don't know if they were going to get it automatically, but you knew that's what was coming. When they kicked the field goal, I'm like, oh, fuck, they just gave them the game because they're not stopping them. They hadn't stopped them for fucking since the first quarter. They hadn't stopped them.
And even if they had, I mean, you're essentially saying that you had 2 shots to get a touchdown. One, in the case of opting for the field goal, if you do get the touchdown in the stop, after the stop, you win the game. Okay, so that would be great if you had that kind of confidence in your defense. If you had some kind of monster defense and you thought, well, we'll stop them, we'll knock them out here, and then we'll get the touchdown and win the fucking game. But if you have 2 shots to get a touchdown, what's so bad at the worst? If you're lucky enough to get the stop, which there was no indication you're going to be able to. First of all, if you missed a field goal, then you were talking about them getting the ball. What? I mean, if you missed a touchdown at the 10-yard line, so they would have had to go 90 yards, and you still would have had time for them to actually get a first down or two and still get some reasonable field position. And if you do get the 3 and out somehow by some miracle, you're going to have excellent field position to have a shot to drive the ball in one more time and actually send the game into overtime. So where are your percentages better? Are they better to get the ball deep in your own territory, still trailing by 4, needing a touchdown to win the game, or to possibly get the touchdown and put yourself in a tie right there? And if you fail there, you've got Syracuse in a compromised position at their own 10-yard line. They have to make something happen. And if you do get to stop, you're going to get the ball around the 50-yard line with a shot to win the game and still more than enough time to execute a drive that involves running plays and chances to throw the ball into the middle of the field. So, he says after the game, Lubie, well, the analytics. Look, I mean, you can't go purely by that, can you, Lubie? If you are, then there's something wrong with you as a head coach. You have to at some point say, you know what, I don't care what the analytics say. My percentages are far better having 2 cracks at getting a touchdown, one to tie the game right here. And if I miss that, I'll have a chance to tie the game later on if I get the ball back. And I would much prefer to be in that spot than to still be trailing by 4 and hope to get the ball back and maybe get a chance to win the game. That was ridiculous because you'll never know what happened because you didn't run this play.
You have Cam Ward, and you're paying Cam Ward, and you literally are here because of Cam Ward. Your defense has been a sieve all year. Your run game has been questionable. Your line has been solid, but not great. The receivers, I supposedly have good stats. I don't like any of the receivers outside of Restrepo, and Restrepo is really the third receiver. He's not on number 1. Like, it's all Ward. Ward is what keeps the engine going. Ward, no matter how weird he plays and how stupid interception he has at times or dumb fumbles, he comes back every time. He doesn't give a fuck. He gets off the mat. And the reason why they won all those games, I mean, the refs were pretty much the reason. But outside of the refs, was Cam Ward. So give him the fucking ball. Like, sometimes you just don't think. And then if Cam Ward fails, no one's questioning you. They're questioning Cam Ward. Like, even in that game, he still had good stats.
Yeah.
Like,
all right, put up 38 points. It wasn't like they were
put it this way, Jordan Travis is getting the ball in that fucking play last year, right? Okay, he was hurt. But if he's there, he's getting that ball. Dylan Gabriel for Oregon is getting the fucking ball right there. There's no way he's not. Quinn Ewers is getting the fucking ball. Shedeur Sanders, for sure, is getting the fucking ball in that circumstance. All these quarterbacks around the country that are these top-notch quarterbacks are getting the ball in that circumstance. Why not Cam Ward? Cam Ward, by many, is considered the best in the bunch. It was. I actually was like, I had a sigh of relief. I was like, oh, fuck. I think Syracuse is winning this game. And I was like, because they didn't get the ball back. Like, because it's the thing with Joe Philbin. Like, they never, you're going to give it to Aaron Rodgers? Okay. Like, they just went, they didn't even throw it. They just ran it up the gut. They ran it like we talked about it. Their run defense statistics were skewed because they played shitty run offenses. The 3 times this year that they played anyone with any semblance of a run game, they had over 200 yards rushing. Like, they didn't even throw one pass. They just went right. They got the 3 first downs and didn't even have to score. They just ended the game. Like, it just was weird. It was like, dude, like, how can anyone fight people like us with our opinion? He's a great recruiter. I was calling him an average coach. You've been right. He's a horrendous coach. Like, he's not even average. He's just
how do you not know? I mean, I have no instincts for it. And then to get up, just like Eberflus was trying to defend his decision not to call a timeout in a Thanksgiving Day game, Lions and the Bears. Of course, he had to be fired immediately after that. Many people after this latest Cristobal incident would say, hey, and a lot of people did, they should have fired him right after that Georgia Tech game last year, which he gave away by not taking a knee. Andy points out that he was surprised that he didn't take a knee in that spot and just give him the ball in the 10. But regardless, I mean, you don't put yourself in that much more of an advantageous position by kicking the field goal. That's a certainty. It's a lame way out. If you're going Herm Edwards and saying you play to win the game. This is always debatable too, Lubie, this particular move. You have the ball on like the 3-yard line. Let's say a team's trailing by 10 and there's enough chance or enough time left in the game for them to get a couple of possessions. But you're knocking on the door at the 3. Do you go Tony Sperano and kick the field goal in that spot, or do you figure, hey, there's a pretty good chance I'm not going to get this close if I get the ball?
Exactly.
So let me take my best shot at getting the touchdown right here. Now, if I fail, I lose the game. That happens. That there are plays that are decisive at different junctures of ball games that aren't always the climactic final play.
Yes.
People look at a play where you decide to go, say, for a 4th and inches, and you end up keeping the ball. That could decide the game right there.
I mean, look at FSU. It's funny, as much as you're saying the game was out of hand, it really wasn't. FSU just every time they had a chance to be in the game had a stupid ass fumble, and Norvell went dumb with a fucking play call. You have 3 fumbles, yet somehow you're at the 2 with a chance to make it a 17-10 game in the fucking third quarter after having 3 fumbles that all led to scores. You have a chance to make this a game, and you do some stupid ass pitch you've never done. It's not even like they do this. The last time they did this pitch was fucking LSU when it went for a fucking fumble. Like, sometimes just do the goddamn, hand the ball off. It's 2nd and goal from the 2. Run it 3 fucking times. Like, what? Sometimes it's okay to not. That's why I'm glad he's handing over play calling duties. He's admitting, look, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing at this point. I'm going to bring in Gus Malzahn, a guy that doesn't know how to call plays. He's had some questionable issues as a head coach, but he's a good offensive coordinator. I keep doing, because this Norvell's done this. He doesn't do it every game like Cristobal, but he does it every year. He has like 2 or 3 games where you're like, what the fuck call was that? Your team's fumbled it 3 times. Stupid ass fumbles. You have a freshman quarterback, a freshman running back. Why in the middle, when you're getting back in this game, would you throw a fucking pitch? Like, what are you doing there? And that's what, and Cristobal does that every game. At least once a game, he makes a decision where you're like, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing?
This was just a decision by someone who had to be mathematically challenged and yet was going to cite analytics and numerology for the rationale behind it being an actual sound move. Which, how did that work out? Not too well for Mario Cristobal. So where does that leave this Hurricane football team? Been talking about them all year. They were undefeated through most of the season. What would they get off to? The 9-0 start before they finally lost a game. They hadn't really played anybody of any great significance. Louisville sort of came back towards the end of the year and looked like a reasonably good team. They finished well. Yeah. So maybe you could say that was a legitimate contest. It turned out to be one.
I mean, Syracuse ended up having a good record. So,
Syracuse ended up 9-3, surprising. I mean, I got McCord, turned out to be a real find for them, and maybe Ohio State was unfortunate that they made a decision there. Ryan Day, and that was the other game, of course. That,
oh my God,
what a shocker! Michigan and winning outright, and then the ugly melee at the end. There was a good, bad, and ugly over the weekend. That was a certainty. But okay, so. Question is, are the Hurricanes still a playoff team? Are they in the top 12 in the country in terms of that?
I don't see how. Look, and I get it. Look, the SEC bias, as everyone heard me last year, rant and rave ahead of the curve. Now everyone's caught up. Oh, the SEC bias. Oh, thank you, you fucking morons. It's real. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they all have like 2 to 3 losses, and they prop each other up by playing each other. I totally admit that. I don't think UM's the case, though. Like, I don't think you didn't play 1 ranked team all year. You played 3 teams that were either G5 or FCS. 3. Most teams play 1 or 2. You played 3 to front load your schedule. Then the last 2 months, you struggled every week. Like, they didn't blow anyone else out. Like, whatever you want to say about Clemson or SMU, they played stronger at the end of the season than UM did. I don't think UM's the case to bust up the SEC bias. Like, I just don't. I think there's no way the SEC doesn't get 4 teams in. I don't see how you don't have the Big Ten get 4 teams in. I think the Big 12 gets their 1. The ACC gets their 1. The Group of 5 gets their 1, which is Boise State's already in. And then Notre Dame's in. Like, the idea that the ACC is going to get 2 teams, 3 teams, I think that's ludicrous. I just don't see. And the one team that didn't make the conference championship and lost twice in the conference, that is the worst Power 4 conference, I don't see how you put them in. I know people have them at 12 or 13 or 14. That's fine. I just don't see how I don't see how the way they finished. They were 2-2 in the month of November, and they didn't play anyone that was good. They played okay teams. I just don't see how you put them in over that 4th SEC team. Especially after what I witnessed last year, like, I don't see them leaving out Bama or fucking Texas. Like, if Texas loses the conference championship game and has 2 losses, I'm sorry, I don't see you putting UM over that. I don't see it. I know people are trying to do math to make it happen. It happened to me last year. I've learned my fucking lesson. Like, to expect them to not have SEC bias is just childish and immature and naive.
And the SEC title game, I had Georgia. Wow, life and death, that Georgia Tech game.
That was ridiculous.
That was absolute
That was
insanity. He
fucking
goes
annoying.
to 8 overtimes because once you get past the third overtime, they go to the 2-point conversion deal. And so it goes into 8 separate sessions to decide the outcome of the game. Georgia was dead in the water and appeared to be completely hopelessly out of this thing. They rallied back. They found ways to manufacture wins in very difficult circumstances. Georgia still have 2 losses and yet would still be in there with an excellent chance to beat Texas. Because you can't possibly discount them. So, I would agree with you. Texas and Georgia probably go in there. What was weird was looking at all these brackets all along, knowing how weak Mario Cristobal and the Hurricanes defense was, and seeing them getting the bye in the first week is the assumption was there that they were going to win the ACC.
Oh, good. People kept putting them as the number, and I get it. But even record, they weren't the number 1 team in the conference. SMU was the number 1 team, and it kept bothering me because, look, I don't know what SMU is going to be going forward. It's their first year, and what they're doing is amazing, and Lashley's done a good job. I think a lot of it is you're catching teams off guard. No one expected SMU to do this. But this year, they did it again this week. Like, literally every week since BYU, they've beaten teams by 30 or like by 25 or more. Like, UM has played the same teams and is struggling life and death versus these teams. Let's say Miami wins again the conference championship. How do you not think they get drubbed by SMU? Like, and that's not a bias thing. For some reason, people keep ignoring SMU. Look, I can't name one player on fucking SMU, but I've watched them as a team just roll through. That Cal team that got a 25-point lead on UM, and if they played smart and the refs didn't help UM, they win by 2 scores or 2 touchdowns, honestly, over UM. They were up by 20-something by like the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter, and they just sort of just slow played it. So let's say UM got to the conference championship, but they lose by 2 to 3 touchdowns to SMU. How do you put them in the playoffs? I'm not even trying to be mean to the UM fan.
They were unimpressive. As you said, 2-2 at the end of the year. Could have been tagged with any number of other losses.
Should have 3 or 4 more.
Saying that about a lot of teams, but the fashion in which they could have been tagged with those losses was highly suspect. At least in most of the other cases, you had a team that was highly regarded going against somebody that was somewhat formidable. In the case of the University of Miami, you had them going against teams they were supposed to beat by 25 points. And in some cases, found themselves trailing by 20 some odd points. It made some remarkable comebacks. All the more reason, Lubie, you hit it right on the head, Lubie. You're on your game today. I like the way you're razor sharp on a Monday. I'm kind of meandering around here thinking, what the hell am I talking about? And you are nailing it. Because the very ability that saw Cam Ward come back in that California game and his amazing knack that he had and a flair for the dramatic in these kind of situations was exactly the reason that you say, hey, you're my guy. Here's the ball. You got to make a 10-yard play. And if you do, we're going to tie this ball game up right here. And then your defense is still going to have to hold them.
Yeah. You're going to have to get a stop regardless, but at least it's a tie. And they probably would still win. Because that's the thing is, even if they scored, there was going to be plenty of time for Syracuse. I figured Syracuse still was going to find a way to win because I didn't trust Miami's defense at all. But at least it'd be tied. At least it wouldn't be in Cristobal. Like, that's why.
At least you took your shot with your best chance to get yourself into a winning position. Much better chance to get into a winning position than kicking a field goal and still trailing by 4.
Like, what are you doing? You're not even going to
insane, isn't it? I mean, that's how do you get to be a professional now? In this case, yes, we're talking college football, but highly professional all the way around now. In fact, even more professional than the professionals.
Yeah, sure.
When you look at some of them, is there anybody? I mean, not everybody on these teams could be getting paid. So how do the guys feel that are making no money?
I mean, everyone makes something. I think that's what we've learned. They just don't all make Cam Ward money.
How little could they pay? Like the last guy on the roster,
thousands. I mean, look, you're on the team. They find a way. A lot of the endowments or NIL are for the team or for the units, so they're all making like something. They're just not all making the same. And a lot of the quarterbacks are smart, and the big time players are smart to share the wealth so that everyone, you see it in the NFL too. So to make sure everyone happy, yes, it's definitely a professional juncture, and you expect professionalism from your head coach. And I don't know what you do with Cristobal. He's a really good recruiter. They're going to win, I would say, 6 to 8 games every year. The year they had this year, I don't think that's every year. He's done a horrible job recruiting quarterbacks. And you can't expect to get a Cam Ward every year. Like, look at FSU. Like, it's counting on the transfer portal. Transfer portal is really useful. I think it matters. I think those that think it doesn't matter are stupid. But it's not to build your team. It's to fill out your roster. But every
or
year,
again, a player that
a player here or there,
yeah.
to take you to the next level.
Look at the struggles at quarterback that the Hurricanes have had. Even when they thought they had a guy in Tyler Van Dyke? Is that the guy's name? Yeah.
Yeah.
Tyler, was it Tyler Van Dyke?
Tyler Van Dyke, yeah.
Tyler Van Dyke.
Yeah.
Heisman Trophy candidate. I still remember Gene Deckeroff on our radio show talking about, you really got a chance there with your Hurricanes now because you've got a quarterback. That still resonates with me. There was the great Gene Deckeroff talking about how the Hurricanes were in great shape, and then they brought in Cristobal, and Van Dyke went into the tank.
That's the thing. That's why I didn't give them a chance this year because I thought Cristobal would ruin Ward. Ward is so cocky and arrogant that he didn't give a shit about Chris. Like he literally didn't let Cristobal get in his way.
How do you not let that kid fire the ball one time? No, seriously, Lubie. Right? It would be like coming out back in the days, and old Red Shandings comes out to the mound there and says to Gibson, "Hey, Gibby, I'm gonna bring in our reliever here." Ninth inning of a World Series Game 7. No, it's not happening. I was watching a thing on Major League Baseball Network the other day. Lubie, they had Costas was hosting a thing with Tom Verducci, top 20 baseball games of all time, right? And they had, you could argue a zillion different games, but they had a lot of classic games that people would remember, although I didn't really remember this one. I guess it was a Game 7 of a World Series, Twins and the Braves, and Jack Morris was with the Twins at that time. Do you remember all of this, Lubie? I don't even remember.
Yeah, Twins and Braves. Yeah.
Twins and Braves.
Yeah.
And Morris was talking about how he wasn't coming out of the game, that the logical move, they got to the ninth inning, and they sent him out there for the 10th. And I think as early as the 8th inning, it was largely speculated that they were going to go the usual routine and bring in their big closer in a tie ball game. And Morris said, no, you're going to have to cut my arm off to get me out of here. Sometimes you just got, and the manager could have easily been second guessed, sent out a gassed Jack Morris out to the mound just because he had this bravado and that kind of approach. He was one of these dogged competitor types that was sort of wearing his emotions on his sleeve all the time.
Yep.
And he could have just as easily said, hey, you know what? Fuck you, Jack. I'm doing what I always do. It's my reputation that's on the line. Yep. As a manager, I'm the guy that they're going to curse out and think about firing if I send you out there and you give up a home run on the first pitch. But he said, no, I mean, go ahead. And actually, Morris was saying that the manager said to him, it's only a game. What the hell? Go out there. Give it your best shot.
That's actually
if you have that approach, you're more likely to win than you are if you're Mario Cristobal and go, well, the analytics said there were 4 minutes left. And
it's like the Rays World Series. Look, when you're pitching like that, just stay out of the fucking way. If he gives it up, no one's going to go, you didn't follow it. No one. We don't know the analytics. You do. So you can live or die by them. But if you don't coach by them, we don't know. It's in our minds that you're going to ride with your fucking ace. And if your ace gives it up, we're going to blame the ace. We're not going to blame the skipper. Why would you?
Or you blame no one. You just say, hey, it was
or you can be logical,
and you lost.
You can be logical and reasoned, which none of us
doesn't always work out.
Why would you insert yourself? Why would you go, you know what? I want the spotlight. Why? As a coach, shut the fuck up.
Overthinking. It's always deadly in sports, or seems to be. Don't get cute. We talk about it all the time. In this case, though, this made so little sense. You're asking yourself, is this guy really going to go for a fucking field goal here? You got to be kidding me. And that would have been a time, especially with the way Ward has performed, if anybody deserved a chance to go ahead. And as I said, remember that game with it was Green Bay and what? Or were they playing for the chance to go to the Super Bowl? And Matt LaFleur goes for a field goal, and then instead of having Aaron Rodgers take a shot at winning a ball game, kicks a field goal, needing to recover an onside kick to have any chance. You're like, what the fuck are you doing? You have a chance to win one shot. Sometimes you just have to take it, draw one card, and see how it comes out. All right, we'll get into the pros a little bit. So college football, with Ohio State losing, kind of an interesting scenario. Is there any chance, Lubie, are we completely overlooking Notre Dame just because we hate them?
I'm not. I'm the one that's I've had them in the playoffs for the last month. I don't know what the national media is just fixated on the SEC. And
they're blowing everybody out.
It's just SEC and UM. Those are the only people the national media talks about. Look, the only thing I was caught off guard by was Ohio State, Michigan. Like I thought that was fucking weird. I love Ed Garcia, but Michigan sucks. Like they have a nice defensive run game.
Lost, did he not? I mean, nobody was thinking they were going to win that game.
Yeah, what do you mean? He was like, oh, if they can win somehow, that would make our year. It's like, okay, so he knows that they're not going to win. I didn't even pay attention. I forgot the game was on. I was driving to Orlando during that game. I didn't even think about. I was driving home. I was driving home from Orlando during the game. Yeah. I didn't think at all that that game was going to be close. The fact that Ohio State, with all the money they put into that roster, could only, and again, Michigan has a nice defense, but it's not the same defense from last year. Muster 10 points, and they don't have any offense. So literally, like their defense should be on the field the whole game if you play it right. That caught me off guard, but the rest of it, I mean, I don't know. Notre Dame, I think, is solid. I don't know what Marcus Freeman is. I know that Northern Illinois loss bothered people, but
Freeman, as I've said many times, every time you see the guy, you're thinking, my God, if there was a coach we'd want to send your kid to
it looks like it.
Be mentored by or whatever, be an influence, this would be the guy. I mean, he seems so righteous, doesn't he? Maybe I don't anticipate. Does he strike you as being full of shit? I don't think so.
Oh no! Look, he just he had another dumb loss. He had one last year, wasn't it to Marshall or something like that? People don't like the dumb losses, but why can't we focus on the fact they've won like 9 or 10 in a row?
Like 30 points plus.
And every game they're pounding teams. Navy and Army were undefeated. 2 teams that people were like, oh, good for them. They pounded the shit out of both of them. Like to me, the SMU Notre Dame thing is weird. Like every year we usually focus on the teams playing well. This year we'll focus on the teams with like names. And Notre Dame used to be one of those teams, but now the SEC and the Big Ten are the entire sport. That's all the sport cares about. So Notre Dame's even falling out. Like I forgot Notre Dame was in the top 10 a couple weeks because no one talks about them. SMU is like second or third in the conference every week in these stupid ass conference rankings. And I'm like, aren't they the only undefeated one? Like people are like wrapped up in the 2 big Goliaths that they're ignoring the 2 teams playing the best football. Like every other team's had a dumbass loss. The 2 of them in the last 2 months haven't. So I don't know what's going on this year. The analysis of the higher ups in college football this year is really weird. Like to just ignore.
Everybody's making it up after the fact. That's what it seems like. Now, what about this melee after the game?
Oh, the Ohio State one or the FSU one? There was one in FSU too.
Yeah, was there also one in North Carolina?
There was like 3 or 4. This flag thing, which I didn't know the flag thing was even a thing. Because to me, that's the most that's some shit like Terrell Owens would try to do. That when the guy from the Cowboys would go and punch him in the face, everyone would think he's justified. Because there's weird. Look, FSU has this sod thing they do where they go to the corner of the end zone after the game when everything's quieted down. They take some sod. They have a sod cemetery when they win big road games, but they also pay the school that they took the sod from for the damages, and they don't make a big deal of it. It's very quiet. They don't do it right after the game when the crowd's cheering, fuck you. And like, I get winning a rivalry game is a big deal. Celebrate however you want. But to me, it's like spitting. We've talked about that. Like spitting in a grown man's face. You could punch a dude and he could give a shit. You spit on a guy, that's like the most disrespectful.
Now you have to attack. It doesn't matter. You could know you're going to get your ass kicked. You'll have to at least throw a couple of punches.
I've never heard of this flag thing. Suppose it's been going on for years. I've never seen it because to me, that's the most disgusting thing you could do to another team. Go to their fucking symbol in the middle of the field and put your flag. Like, get the fuck out of here. You want a game. You don't own my field.
Literally, it'd be putting a flaming arrow in the middle of the Florida State logo.
I don't know. That's I've never heard of it, but supposedly it's a thing. I don't see how you can react.
No, I mean we've seen examples of this before, and it never fails to ignite and incite some kind of riot, where police are pepper spraying players. There were even some reporters that were caught up in the midst of the mist. One with a D, one with an S. Just it was ugly. I mean, who needs this shit? Come on, people. You think that's just, well, how can we blame the Trump administration?
No. I suppose it's gone on for years. I think it's something you have to legislate out. Like, I give Napier credit after he just watched them do it and smiled in Norvell.
Who regulates this shit anymore?
That's the problem.
Capable of administrating, some kind of fine on, any teams, players that, not just the players, but the whole school, right? They should lose, forfeit their whole bowl money or whatever.
I don't know about all that. I think they should make it illegal.
Using NIL for the next 5 years.
They should make it illegal, and then if a team does it, I could see a fine. I don't think you should have punitive damages. They're kids; they want a rivalry game. Fine. I'm not mad at the kids for doing it. I just
who's in that kind of a frenzy? My God, what What drugs are these kids on?
Shut up. Hey, look, you're excited. It's fine. Like you do things in a rivalry game.
What happened to dignity, Lubie?
Right, exactly. There's certain sportsmanship things you just don't do that we always adhered to. And I understand it's a new era and all that crap, but it's okay to still have some sportsmanship. And the flag thing really weird.
Two fighters that hated each other. I sound like Larry Merchant here. Two fighters at a crossroads. No, but I mean, the whole build up to the fight, you sense that there was a legitimate and real, tangible animosity, and that these two guys just couldn't wait for round one and the bell to ring so they could get in there and kill each other. All right, and they end up going 12 rounds. Both of them are busted up pretty badly. You don't know which way the fight's going to go. And what do? They embrace each other after the thing and apologize for all of the trash talk before the fight.
Yes.
They just kicked each other's ass. I mean, well, the guys get blood dripping down off his face there, and the guy's putting the cotton swab in his eyeball as he's talking to the other fighter. Where is that in college sports? My God, that instead we got this kind of bullshit going on all across the country. Very sad state of affairs for the human condition, Lubie. All right, speaking of human condition, the conditions were not favorable for a Dolphin win. I was duped.
Yeah, I was too.
Duped completely into thinking that they had found a rhythm, Lubie. And we'll get into that when we come back here in a moment. Good to be with you guys. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving, by the way. And Lubie, you said yours was
good.
How many did you have there? Like two?
Went to my parents Thursday, and then we were at my sister-in-law's Friday.
Okay.
Those.
Very nice. I got to say, my son and his wife knocked it out of the park. They cooked everything.
Nice.
And couldn't have come out any better. Everything was just right on the money.
Nice.
The whole thing. And then you realize that gaining weight at a Thanksgiving meal. See, now I could eat Thanksgiving dinner every night of my life, going the rest of the way. I just love all of the shit. I really do.
Yep.
There's nothing. I'm not like inclined to dig in deep to the green bean casserole. I think that's highly overrated.
People don't like. I like it, but I understand it looks like gloop.
Oh, and then they take those little fried onions out of the can and use those. I mean, there was a time, remember, you could just drink the can. I don't know. Did you ever do one of those?
Yep.
Like after having a liverwurst sandwich, but no longer. I mean, they have zero appeal at this point, especially when you read the ingredients. If you ever get that far and you start seeing chemical equations there that even Einstein wouldn't understand, and you're thinking, I'm eating this shit. That's But aside from that, I mean, but you're looking at it going, my God, what is it? I mean, everything is a glop of shit. A glop of mashed potatoes, a glop of sweet potatoes, a glop of cranberries with a lot of sugar in it, a glop of stuffing.
Yep.
Everything is just a glop, like you were in some kind of prison line there.
Yeah.
Did one of those things where the guy takes a ladle and that's it. You're looking, going, holy shit, what am I, an extra in Papillon? I mean, crazy stuff. But no, it was great. They did a great job.
That's great.
And all that. But there isn't a lot of health.
No.
That's being created by
turkey, but the problem is a lot of turkeys are stuffed with fucking salt.
Yes,
so that also is an issue.
These things with what is the really harmful thing they inject turkeys with?
Isn't it saline? Like a saline solution that's full of salt.
It could be
sodium.
Anyway, so we got past that. We have like 3 weeks to rest up here and get in shape for the next one.
Yes,
and that'll be another culinary bloodbath that's coming up around Christmas time. And it's worse, right? Because there's always cookies involved where you don't get that so much on Thanksgiving.
A lot more dessert shit with Christmas.
Sweets. Everybody's got cannolis coming in and this and that 2 weeks before the holiday.
Yep.
When the Christmas party happens at the office there. Although, who goes to an office anymore?
I don't know. Do people still have Christmas parties? Who is the Christmas?
No, it seems like everybody that's going to an office is essentially, sitting shiva there, I mean, waiting for the business to die. All right, we're going to come back with more. We'll get into this Dolphin thing. That was ugly, and where does it leave us is the big question. So we'll come back and analyze that for you in a moment. Now that.
The time.
Consider this analysis, Lubie, or is it just our own self-therapy?
I'm bitching.
It's 8:43.
Here, let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Hi, guys. If I could squeeze in two. One is just, can you say with certainty that Jimmy Garoppolo will be on the roster on Sunday?
I can't guarantee that anybody in the world will be alive Sunday, so I can't guarantee who will be on our roster on Sunday. So that goes for all of us.
From South Florida to the entire world, thank you to the iHeartRadio app. Here is Defo joined by Lubie on The Defo Show.
Did we misinterpret that and cite Kyle Shanahan for being an asshole without really examining? Or was he just being intellectually facetious there?
Sure.
I mean, a weird voice that he has to begin with. He sounded a little bit like Peter Lorre in one of those horror movies. But yes, we have seen the bodies. But he, I mean, he couldn't possibly have thought that was an appropriate answer.
No, he's being a douche.
Poor schmuck. He's got an ink stain on his shirt there. The prototypical ink stain wretch reporter who's probably been on the beat for 48 years, going back, remembering when Montana was a rookie. And that's when he had. I mean, I don't know. I guess what are you going to say? That I'm going to fire the guy? That we're going to cut him? You're not going to answer that question anyway, Louis. But because of that, I don't know that I want to amend my opinion on that. I'm still going to go with he was being a jerk, and it was one of the worst answers I've ever heard at any press conference by a coach being asked. Would you consider that a legitimate question, Louis?
The question was legit. I mean, they were asking about Jimmy G. The answer was a douche one. I don't mind getting deep. We've talked with plenty of coaches that go deep.
He could have easily said, "Hey, listen, I can't comment on personnel."
That's all he had to say. I mean, he was being a douche. And Kyle Shanahan's known to sort of be there.
There's a lot at stake here. A lot of different things could happen, but we haven't decided yet. Okay, that's all you got to say, right?
Yes.
I would like to keep Jimmy Garoppolo for as long as possible because I think he's a wonderful guy, but we'll see what happens. And then everybody would run with, oh, well, he wouldn't commit to having a guy on the roster. I understand that, but for some reason, Lubie, ever since that day, I have rooted for the 49ers to lose every time.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Every fucking day, I root for them to lose. And so it was particularly pleasurable last night, even though I was handed the 49ers in my personal bookmaking venture, and I thought that they were in there with that absolute Blutarsky-esque 0.0 shot of winning that game. How could they, Lubie? How could they win that game? Why is everybody a believer that the 49ers are any good this year? They're what? I think they're 40 against the spread, yeah.
Well, they're so injured. I mean, it's all injuries, and that's fine. Christian McCaffrey is not going to get healthy. He was playing decent last night, and then just was like, "All right, I'm done." Like he literally falls down.
He hurt his knee, but
he did. He clearly did, and I don't see when you're getting him back. Williams isn't
maybe out for the season. That was his
Williams. Their stud left tackle is not playing, and as Jason Cole told us last year, that's actually the guy that matters more than anyone.
Yeah.
Samuel is playing, but his numbers are dreadful. And Purdy just isn't Purdy's the guy that was drafted the last pick in the draft. This is what he's become without having his left tackle. And the defense, again, Bosa, this is what Nick Bosa's done his whole career. He's hurt all the time. And when he's hurt, as talented as that defense is, it becomes average. So, I mean, look, they're under 500. like they're not.
Yeah, and 4-8 against the point spread. And they were getting 6 points in this ball game last night. That didn't seem to be nearly enough, especially when you saw, and it wasn't as if these conditions were a sudden surprise, although I believe the snowfall during the game
I mean,
was not anticipated. It was
that was
supposed to
fucking
start up in the
insane.
second half, they were saying, and then next thing you know, you can't even see Tarico. There's a fucking blinding snowstorm taking place. Although there were times, I mean, what was it? Just are these camera lenses so amazing that when they would zero in on certain shots, it didn't even look like it was snowing, and then they would pull back, and a blizzard was taking place.
Yes, it was fucking crazy.
So yeah, they would kind of zero in with a camera that was above the huddle.
Yes.
That thing must have had some bizarre lens on it because all of a sudden it was clear as a day. It was like when you have those commercials for. Would you ever buy those glasses that you put a pair of sunglasses on when you're driving at night and everything's clear as a bell?
Oh, that would be cool. I didn't never even seen that.
You haven't seen? They've been advertised for years in sort of like mini infomercials.
Oh, interesting.
Where the lady looks up and all of a sudden she's staring at the sun, no problem, and it's raining at night and pitch black and it's almost opaque looking through your windshield, and then you put these glasses on, it's like holy shit, it's the Wizard of Oz.
No, that's interesting because Shirley hates driving at night. I never heard of these.
1999, Libby. But because of supplies and demand limiting 4 to a customer. In other words, if you wanted to buy like 1,000 of them right now at $19.99, they would tell you, listen, Libby, we'd love to accommodate you and have you send us the 19,000, but we're only going to limit you to 4.
Exactly.
Imagine the woman in the Philippines that's taking the order there going, no, 4, that's it. Quattro. But yeah, I mean, it was crazy because you thought as soon as you saw that I mean, the 49ers were fucked completely.
Yeah, that was bad.
Buffalo was used to this shit.
That was rough. I don't know how you play in that. The Bills were just hanging out. People from goddamn San Francisco. It's very similar to us. They have perfect weather there. They're not used to snow at all, let alone whatever the fuck that was. That was ridiculous.
They would go to the mountains there and go skiing. I mean, they have some of that in Northern California. They have that in Southern California, for God's sake.
You're playing football. That's for fucking sure.
But if you're playing football, yeah. And look, I love adverse conditions.
Yeah,
I really feel good about it. The worse the conditions, the better I felt about my chances of having a good ball game. Even though I felt comfortable in perfect conditions too, but with football, you're making little juke moves and whatever. I mean, the defender just can't stay with you because he has no fucking idea which way you're going, and if he does, you still have a tough time making the kind of cuts that you would need to make. Now they weren't doing much of that in the game, but just overwhelming. And I bring this up because the Bills naturally were impressive. You had 1960. What was the last time that a quarterback ended up scoring a touchdown on a pass that he threw? They did the old, did you catch that play, Libby? The old hook and lateral? Looked like Tony Nathan to Daryl Harris. Not by design. You had Josh Allen throws a pass. It's going to be a short gain. The guy's getting pushed back. They could have easily have called the play dead for forward progress. And Allen shoots around the end and catches a lateral from the guy and then leaping into the end zone scores. This was fucking Cinderella Man that was going on last night against the 49ers. So I was happy to see them lose, but could I have been any more dead wrong, Libby? And that leads us to
the Dolphins.
Our Miami Dolphins here because they are now the Bills clinched the AFC East, which I boldly predicted. Why not take a shot? I can see myself sitting in this chair, Libby, and recommending to people that rely on us for our very, very acute and astute sports opinions. And I'm recommending to people, I mean, I literally, I should be whipped at dawn.
I mean, I thought the Dolphins had a chance until we saw the season start.
Take 2-1 on the Dolphins to win the AFC East.
Yeah, look,
2-1.
I
Not
thought
20-1. What do you think?
It's been a disaster of a year. We talked about it last week. I figured they'd lose this game, and I was focused on the next 5, which I think are all winnable games. The way the Texans have played, the Niners, the Jets, the Browns, there's no reason why the Dolphins shouldn't be the favorite in those games. I did not see them winning this game. Now, what I was looking for in this game is the thing that Mayo and Hyde and Perk have talked about. When they've played good teams, they've not only lost, they've gotten fucking ruined. And that is the issue with this game. It wasn't that they lost, okay? Because the first half, Tua was not good, but the second half, he played well, okay? It's the fact that their defense is what I've said their defense is, and you can't count on it. And as much as the offense is the bell cow. It's not a great offense. It's a good offense. It's an offense that can get you 25 to 30 points, but it's not getting you 43. It's not the greatest show on turf. So to think you're going to win shootouts, then you're not going to win. Like this team was built for complementary football. They put a ton of money into the defense, even though they lost Wilkins and they lost Van Ginkel. They gave a lot of guys a lot of money. And so this wasn't a team that was just built around the offense. This is a team that was both sides of the ball were supposed to help each other. And the defense isn't good. Like, it's just not. And I've said that all fucking year. And they've found a way to get off the field. But you're letting teams go up and down. When you play good teams, they're going to cash in on those opportunities. And that's what you saw in this game. And that's what scares me. And Mike McDaniel, again, is just Like, he's not bad, but he's not good. And Chris Greer's done a horrible job assembling this team. The word that's come out after this game is what they are. They're fucking soft. Like, they just, when the going gets tough and you're in the trenches and it's a tough game, they fall apart every single time. And that's what I took from this game. It's not that they lost. I thought they'd lose. It's how they lost. They were in the second half, they were pushed around. The offense was finally moving the ball. The offense was scoring. And the defense couldn't get a goddamn stop. The defense couldn't get off the fucking field. And okay, you're not going to win games that way. And I love Perk and Hyde. Well, the offense has to outscore them. You're not going to always outscore.
No, you can't be a sieve defensively.
Like, come on. Like, you're not going to always outscore. You're not in the playoffs. You can't expect to score 40. Like the Lions put up a lot of points, but they also know that they can grind it out if they have to. They have a really good run game. They have a good offensive line, and their defense gets stops. The Dolphins don't do any of that. Like, they go away from the run. They can't keep the run going, and they can't sustain drives, and then their defense just falls fucking apart. That's my problem with this game. It's not that they lost, it's how they lost. And we've seen this time and time again the last 3 years under Mike McDaniel.
Yeah. And then they have the chance to actually get back into the ballgame. And they could have cut it to a 1 touchdown margin. But instead, they get stuffed at their own 1 yard line and end up with nothing. And that was it. That was essentially the game. They flew the coop after that. You can't be argued with on a lot of those things. I mean, soft would be the way that you would have to put it. I thought, I keep getting duped into thinking, I want to believe that teams are capable of overcoming lifelong tendencies like losing in these conditions, which the Dolphins always do. It's just disastrous to think that there was reason to believe that maybe they could overcome it this time. But wow, that was very deflating to see the fashion in which they lost this ball game, and very typical. Now, there is a common thread here, Lubie. Who's playing the best defense in the National Football League right now? Would it be the Philadelphia Eagles under Vic
Fangio?
Okay, so this gets into that argument. I don't know that there's really any definitive evidence here on the table, but it is odd, is it not, that Fangio leaves to what was a very disappointing defense a year ago and has this defense playing in a number 1 category in virtually every meaningful stat in terms of defensive ability this year. The Philadelphia Eagles, and they're winning games. They've won like 8 in a row or something like that.
Yeah.
And last night, I mean, once again, I mean, they hold the Baltimore Ravens in check.
Yep.
The entire game. Fangio.
They're like 12 points. They're one of the best offenses in football. Many people are calling them one of the better offenses ever. And they had no answer. They didn't know what the fuck.
The guy was supposed to be an incredible asset to the Dolphins last year. Deemed to be the most important thing that they did during the offseason when he came here a year ago.
Yep.
Didn't work out. At odds with the intellectual Mike McDaniel.
Yep.
Who's talking in all these cerebral terms, and Fangio's probably just thinking to himself, these guys can't fucking tackle Mike. Got to get him off the field. And look what he's doing now. So and the defense for the Miami Dolphins, suspect would not even be a strong enough word to describe it. So I mean, do they drop 2 of these 5 games, Lubie? Wow. As you said, 2 games against the Jets, 1 against the Browns. The 49ers are finished.
And the Texans. I think they win all 5. The thing that sucks for them is they're not getting help. Like the Chargers and Broncos keep moving along, and so those are the 2 teams they're chasing. I think that's what would be the Dolphins. The funniest thing is they find a way to win fucking 5 in a row. They get to 10-7, and that's not good enough to make a playoff spot this year.
Yeah. Right.
Stupid ass Ross will convince himself that
everybody's got to come back.
and then they pull a Riley, and then they keep fucking everyone. Even though, like, that's as bad as FSU was this year. I'd rather that than win 6 to 8 games because it's clear FSU had to do coaching changes, and Norvell wasn't making them. Even the years they won, there were major deficiencies on that team, but because they found a way to win, it's what Cristobal's going to do. He's going to convince himself of this and that. Like, I'd rather not just get by. I'd rather, we've talked about it, be good to great or bad. Like, at least when you're bad, you make changes. That's the problem. The Dolphins, I think, are going to win 4 or 5 games here. They'll get to 9 or 10 wins, and they'll convince themselves of fucking Greer and McDaniel and all this garbage. When no, it's year 3, you went all in, and you have the same goddamn record. Like, if it wasn't good enough for Flores, why is it good enough for McDaniel?
Who takes the fall for Cristobal?
For Cristobal?
The trainer?
The coordinator's gone.
The
They've already, Canes fans are already looking at the next defense coordinator. He hasn't already had 3. Like, that's one thing I'll give Cristobal. Actually, he's the opposite. Yeah. He's the opposite of Norvell, where Norvell has all this loyalty and it got annoying. Cristobal just fires guys every year. Every year he changes the offensive coordinator, he changes the defensive coordinator. So it's like, hello, like, who is
he going to do without Cam Ward? Does Brian Forte still have eligibility? What's he going to do?
They're going to fall off a cliff. I mean, I think he's recruited well enough that they'll be competitive. They're not going to be FSU, but I think they win 6 to 8 games. Like, I don't think they're contending for the ACC next year.
All right. Well, it surely it did get interesting. A lot of this stuff over the weekend, and it's always good to be right, Lubie. Which I'm sure you feel largely vindicated for all season long, seeming like you were just some sourpuss Florida State fan looking at the Hurricanes as the enemy.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's how it came off. But I watched them. Like, they have major holes, and again, it comes back to your coach. Like, Cristobal is who he is.
Cristobal factor, I think, it really is a very tangible thing to consider.
Like, I ignored that. I just thought they
7 points a game. Cristobal factor.
100. Look, you've been on it since that Georgia Tech game, and even before.
Oh my God! I mean, that was inexcusable. That was Eberfloss-esque, right? 32 seconds to go in the game. You've made this wild comeback, which they've been doing. They found a million ways to lose games, the Bears. And this guy doesn't stop the clock after his quarterback gets sacked.
What was that?
Every announcer always screaming in these spots. Hey, the one thing you can't afford to do right here is get sacked. You're going to have to burn that last time out.
Well, at least use it.
But use it. Don't let the clock evaporate completely so you have one more play. You throw an errant pass, and that's it. Get the fuck out of here.
I don't know. Coaches do too much. You talked about it. They don't get cute. Coaches do it all the time.
But I mean, what could the guy possibly have been thinking? There was not a person alive that wasn't. Everybody assumed that. I think they even went to a commercial break, figuring the guy called a timeout.
Honestly, they like missed a play.
Hey, look at this. This is what happened while we were gone.
Because they're like, he can be that stupid.
That's crazy, huh? All right. Very good, Lubie. We made it through.
Yes, sir.
And we'll do it again tomorrow as I get back in some kind of rhythm. I hope everybody hasn't checked out yet. I still have a few things. Is there like a 10-day moratorium on holiday spirit?
No.
Where you can actually get something done here?
Yeah, the first week of December, people still work.
Okay.
It's like
I got a lot of shit going on.
Mid-December, where people are like, all right.
I'm not ready to throw in a towel. I mean,
no. You have to finish the year. These first 2 weeks of December are still work weeks. I mean, we have a lot going on here this week. I know you have a lot going on.
All right. Begin your resolutions now if you're serious about them. Now, don't wait. Now, start today because you already blew the first, but that's okay. We'll give you a 1-day free pass there. If you fucked it up yesterday and you were eating like a pig and didn't do any exercise, that's fine. Or whatever. You didn't accomplish anything. We're just lazy, watching football all day, and not even moving a muscle except to get to the fridge. Change it all up today. Today it begins a whole new thing.
Today.
All right, Louie. I will see you tomorrow, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow in the next edition of the show. Thanks so much for tuning in. As we leave you now, that
The time.
9:02.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my show.